What up?
Hey.
We have begun.
Awesome.
Everybody, this is my good friend Phoebe. We
Hi.
work together, FYI. We spend most of our days walking up and down the aisles at work having crazy, deep, meaningful, ridiculous conversations about everything under the sun. So we thought, well, hell, why don't we do a podcast?
Yeah, why not?
Right?
I mean,
screw it. We talk all the time anyway, so surely we could hold it together for like 45 minutes or so.
Just talk about some of the random stuff that we talk about. It gets pretty deep.
I haven't really scripted much for this interview today, or interview, podcast, chat, whatever the hell you want to call it. We're just going to talk shit. We're going to cover some topics like open relationships, being very open-minded when it comes to relationship, monogamy, sex, sexual validation, etc., etc. Whatever sort of pops into our mind on this plane.
Totally. You kind of like get into the zone and it's just...
Yeah, there's a lot to cover, so we'll just have a play and see what pops up out of the woodwork.
Cool.
Now, before we get started, you've just been down to see one of my good mates, Bucker.
Yes.
For a tattoo. Show the people.
Ooh.
Oh, get it in there.
Where
are we looking?
Major shout out to
Just
Bucker.
breathe.
Yeah.
That's right. Shout out to Wim Hof.
Yes, exactly.
And Guilherme Baccarelli. My man. He has also done all my work. If you want to have
crazy good. Like
quick geezer.
Yeah, this
quick
girl.
geezer.
Love it.
This laptop camera messes with me. There you go, people. Anyway, getting started. So, you have just recently started reading or listening to the audiobook of Sex at Dawn by Christopher Ryan and Cecilda Jetta, or whatever
I was
her name is.
try and avoid
sure.
saying that.
Yeah, I might have
just
butchered that, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Fill me in. Like, what have you found so far? What have you discovered?
Well,
what's interesting you? Interesting you.
Yes. Well, I'm listening to the audiobook. It's 11 hours long, and I'm only 2 hours into it. So far,
early days.
Yes.
We were gonna try and have this listened to before today, but life happened.
Yeah. Totally.
Anyway.
So it's kind of like just touching on things at the moment. Because, you know, the podcast we've listened to kind of a broad spectrum of it, so it's really going into detail.
We'll get into that later.
Exactly, yes. Sorry. So, yeah, it's just like touching on the basics of humans, like our connection to us as a great ape, and, you know, how our brains function differently, you know, when it comes to sex and stuff like that, and it explains a lot as to why we are the way that we are today. So what I've gotten up to so far, I actually had to stop for like a minute because it was making me quite angry. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, that's an emotional charge that we need to
exactly
dive into, so let's explore that.
Exactly, yes. And I realised that it was just like, I had to stop because I was like, okay, I've got these emotions and I shouldn't, because it was just explaining about how from like when agriculture first was introduced to the West, how that pretty much began the oppression of women and the hierarchy of like the sex side of things. I don't know if that really makes sense.
Is that, I have no idea, but
yeah, sorry.
Is that because of men then being the workers like that went out into the fields and did the hard work and the labour, and the women looked after the house?
Exactly.
And the woman was there to complement the man, so to speak, like to make sure
service,
he's okay, to suit his needs, to service. Yeah, right. Okay.
100%. So, yeah, I had to kind of wait and get to the good bit on the end of that, because they have to obviously explain how, you know, the studies went back in the 1800s and stuff, like the sex sciences that went into all of that literature back then, and how that's completely ridiculous, like, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, it is. And they're breaking it down to just say, you know, the theories of Charles Darwin and certain people were just so bogus and just completely, like, inaccurate. So, haven't really got into much more depth from that, but it helps to understand so much about why sex is so taboo. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know.
and do you think maybe this or the fact that men are seen as the more sexual of the two, or the more like needy or wanty or whatever,
Spot
that
on,
it is
yeah.
is assumed in today's society, and the women's sort of sexual urges are oppressed
That's exactly right, yeah.
and unrecognized and taboo, as you're saying. And it's kind of like, if it's okay for a bloke to be in a relationship and want to fuck everything else that moves, but if a chick was to do that or say that, I mean, God forbid.
Exactly.
You know, like,
exactly.
that's not okay. For
She's
some reason.
labelled like the
That's
most
labelled.
horrible
She's a
word.
whore, she's a slut, she's,
Exactly.
you know, like, whoa.
Where did this come from?
Where did that come from? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what makes a woman's sexual needs any different to a man's? Or
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it's mind-boggling.
And it helps to understand the differences between the two, so that you can, you know, so that the men in relationships and the women especially in relationships, that, you know, after a couple of years things are a bit boring and they're sort of kind of, you know, perhaps a little bit attracted to someone else. They're like, where are these feelings coming from? I'm a horrible person. Like,
yeah,
it helps to understand that you're not a horrible person.
and the dude will just start to like slowly shut out his partner and just sort of distance himself and like indulge those feelings.
Exactly.
In general.
Because it comes a bit overbearing, I think.
Yeah, and it's just for some reason, as weird as it is to say this, like more socially acceptable.
For a man to do so than a woman, yeah.
It's weird.
It is, isn't it?
And it's a funny thing to say, because I was saying to you the other day at work that during my very short-term relationships that I've had, I have always noticed that it's generally the woman or the female in the relationship that has a stronger sex drive and more of a sexual need than myself.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly maybe get aroused or interested a lot quicker and a lot easier at the drop of a hat. Like, chick walks past and I'm like, ooh, blonde and red, whatever, you know, like shiny thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But when it comes to actually fulfilling the sexual desires and needs, I was much easier satisfied than she was. Which,
totally.
You know, at the time, yeah, I guess I just never really thought much of it. I just thought, to be honest, at the time I thought I was weird. Technical difficulties.
Take 3.
Take 3. But you guys, this is only the second one you've said. Okay, shit, getting back to it. I was weird. I'm weird for the 3rd time. So yeah, I had this belief that I was different, the odd one out, the ugly duckling, not maybe not man enough, low testosterone, I don't know. But yeah, I guess what I'm getting at here is that isn't the case. And for all you guys out there that feel like maybe you are lacking in that area, it's probably not the case. It's probably just that we as blokes are more so aroused by visual stimulus.
100%.
100%. You heard it first.
Spontaneous arousal.
Yeah. I mean, who
Huge.
else wakes up like ready to go first thing in the morning before you're even conscious?
Dudes, but hey, evidently we found out.
Yeah, that's true. Did you know that women have as much erectile tissue as men?
It's
Fun
mind-blowing.
It literally is. If you've ever wondered about the clitoris, what was that? Do you remember the search term?
No.
Just look up like 3D female clitoris. 3D clitoris.
We
I'm
should
pretty
put
sure
it
there's
in
only
the
one
description
kind.
of the video
Maybe
if
we can find it. Yeah. But anyway, it's really fascinating.
So basically it's, yeah.
Whoa. Anyway.
Moving on. But yeah, so apparently women actually wake up with, what would you call it, morning wood or something as well, but it's just internal. So it's
internal, yeah, correct.
The more you know, right? I don't even know this. It's mind-blowing. We're constantly discovering more and more about
we are, yeah.
Human
it's
sexuality.
Fascinating. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were just blown away that we've made all these incredible leaps and bounds in technology and discovered some incredible things, but we're still finding out so much about basic, sexual biology
Absolutely.
Is that the right word? Biology?
Yeah, biology.
I guess so.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And I think that comes down to what people deem important in funding and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but there are
yes,
people
so
out there that have like dedicated their lives, like Chris Ryan and stuff. They're putting all this information out there so that, you know, they're like, okay, the people from history, they may or may not have gotten it wrong.
They're doing their bit so you can get it on better.
That's exactly right, and not feel bad for it either, because I think that's the main thing, is there's so much stigma around sex and everything to do with it.
So,
Especially with
it's
females.
quite the topic.
It is quite the topic.
Yeah. Where do we dive in next? You know, that
Hit
leads.
me.
Yeah. Let's do it. I've always been fascinated by the concept of open relationship. My mother has actually written a book that is somewhat touching on the subject.
Did not know
It's called Wanted Greener Grass. For those interested, I'll put the link in the description. You can check it out. And my mentor and idol, even though he doesn't know it, Aubrey Marcus, is actually in an open relationship with his partner Whitney Miller as well. I have always been quite... Yeah, much love. One love. I've always been quite fascinated by the concept. It doesn't scare me the way it probably scares most people. It intrigues me, and it actually kind of makes sense to me. If I think back to the first time that I guess sort of became aware of open relationship, or the concept of it anyway, it would have been back in my early teenage years, when I was looking into quite a lot of work by a man by the name of Dr. John F. DeMartini, who's quite an incredible personal development speaker, coach, inspirational, motivational, guru-y kind of guy.
Yeah.
Just a really cool dude. Like, he's really interesting. I'd highly recommend checking out his work. My mother exposed me to him at a relatively young age, and a lot of his concepts.
That's really cool.
His sort of basic principle is finding balance in everything. You know, the law of polarity, that in anything, no matter how bad or dark it looks, there's always a silver lining, a positive, a light, and vice versa. Anyway, I'm off topic. So, the story goes that he was on a cruise one day with his wife, and she had developed this sort of crush on, I think it was the captain of the ship, or might have been like a deckhand or like a first mate or something like that on the cruise. And him and his wife have a very, very open relationship when it comes to conversation and being honest with one another.
Awesome.
And so she came to him and said, John, I have this thing for this bloke. You know, I'm really interested in him. He's very handsome and, you know, fills that part of that sort of stereotypical good-looking, strong alpha male. And I'm, you know, interested. I want to experience it. He's asked me to dinner. I want to experience that. And John goes to her and he says, my love, I love you. I want you to experience everything that you want and desire in life. If that is what you want, go. Because if he can satisfy your needs greater than I, you should be with him, not me. And I was just like,
right.
whoa.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like,
beautiful.
What
really.
level of human being is that self-assured, like that comfortable within themselves, that they are prepared to sacrifice their love for somebody, or for the sake of their love's interest.
Exactly.
You know, like what is best for them.
Yeah.
And we all sort of think that if you love someone, you know, let them, or you want them to be happy, I guess, is the simplest way of putting this. But the majority of the time, that is really not the case. Very much so.
Yeah, exactly.
Relationships are quite often very one-sided, or domineering.
Well, as you
or,
said at the beginning of the story, like, they were comfortable enough for the wife to even actually say that to him.
say it, yeah.
That's a huge thing.
That's
Who
a
would ever
massive
say
thing.
that? Like,
yeah, like most people
yeah.
tuck that under the rug and, you know, hide it and just
and then just wonder about it for the rest of their
and
life.
Wonder, like. and then one day just run away and then it all just comes tumbling down around them.
As statistics show.
As statistics
at the
show.
end of most marriages end in divorce. And why is that?
Why is that? Yeah, because we bottle everything up. Yeah. So that really interested me, and I sort of like started turning the cogs in my head, from early teenage years. But
That's really cool.
Yeah, so you know, on that topic, what are your thoughts? Like, open relationship as a concept, go.
Well, I'll start with my very first encounter with it as well, because I'd never really, you know, my parents were together like my whole life basically, so I never was really exposed to anything like that. It just seemed so wrong to me. My whole life I was like, up until, you know, late teen years, I was such a jealous person. Oh my god, I look back and it's just so crazy. Like,
you and the rest of the world in their teenage years.
Hormones, like, you know, and just you're like,
I don't know why I'm feeling this way.
Teen angst, like, love me forever.
Yeah.
So I was so jealous. So then sort of, as I got older, you know, I personally expelled a lot of that jealousy, but there was still that part of me that's like, no, this person is mine, and how dare you look at somebody else, like, just purely jealousy based. And then it actually started with a friend of mine a couple of years ago. I'd been in a relationship with my ex for a couple of years at this moment, and a friend of ours actually started dating a married woman, and to us that was such a shock. We're just like, what are you doing? Pardon?
No, that brings up something for me.
Okay,
so
cool, right.
You go, you finish.
It's just like, what are you doing? Like, who is this woman? Like, and he was speaking about her so positively, but I couldn't get out of my head, like, she's cheating on her husband, but he kept assuring me, no, this is how they do it. He sleeps with other women as well, and I was just like, what? And the thing that got me really thinking about it, that triggered something for me, was when he said, you can't tell me that you, after, you know, 2 years or whatever of being in a relationship, that you've never looked at somebody else and wanted to have sex with them. And I, out of, I don't know, ego was just like, no. Like, I love him but you know, I know that was a lie, because everybody has urges and stuff, but you want to constantly, bottle it down and tell yourself you're this monogamous, angelic goddess that would never do wrong by, not even a thought to do wrong by your partner, you know. And when he said that, I was like, oh, no, like, end of conversation. And then eventually they ended up being in a relationship, like, you know, and then it progressed from there, but I ended up meeting her and understanding and becoming really good friends with her, and we ended up talking about a lot of, you know, her marriage, and she explained all of it to me, and it opened up my eyes a lot. But there was still that part of me that was like
resisting. It was
what
like,
are you
whoa.
doing? It's definitely.
Well, like, it makes sense that it brings about this crazy emotional charge, because it's like, from day dot, you know, from like the moment we first start learning about relationships and all this stuff, it's like, that's wrong, this is right.
Exactly.
You know, it's like good, bad, light, dark, like, this is
and you're
how
a horrible
it should
person
be.
for thinking any other way, like.
Person. And it's just like, it's just not the case. You know, there's just so much more to it than that. And
100%.
and that's present, you know, throughout the world. You know, like, there's cultures where the bloke will have like 30 wives. You know, and like, it's very often.
They make TV shows about it.
Yeah.
Because it's so strange to everybody.
So strange to everybody else, but really, it's just one way of doing things and another way of doing things. You know? And it's really that simple. Yeah. Like, it really is. Just that simple. You know? Like, I'm trying to find another way to explain it, but it's just like, it's not right or wrong. It just is.
Yeah. And it's not you. So, like, they're happy. That's what makes them happy. Ultimately, happiness is like what you want in life. So if you're happy
Totally.
with, and all of your wives are happy to share, like it's
Exactly
totally,
right. And
that's all
and
comes from
there's another
such a
thing,
pure
like,
love.
a lot of women out there will probably think, oh my God, like that's good and well for the man, you know, but what about the women? But like, well, you've got to think of it this way. Like, this is the way you feel and think, because this is the society that you have been brought up in, and this is the environment you've been brought up in.
Yeah.
If you were brought up in a completely different environment where that is completely the norm and there is nothing suspect about it or wrong about it at all, then by nature you are just going to have different, like, opinions, a different perspective of what a relationship is.
Exactly.
And what, you know,
and
that
what
whole
constitutes that,
what constitutes that, and what that means.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
I know, right?
It's a funny one. It's like, and first and foremost, I think something that's really important to touch on is that if you if you wanted to try this open relationship thing and you were doing it simply for the sake of wanting to fuck everything around you, that's just not cool. Like, that's
good, very good point.
This isn't, sorry, that's me being judgmental. That's cool if that's you, whatever. But I'm just saying that's probably not the point of this. Like, the point that we're getting at here is that if this is something you want to explore, it should be about wanting one another to have everything that your partner wants in life.
Exactly. And that's what's helped me to understand it. And Aubrey and Whitney literally explain it perfectly.
They're amazing.
So honestly, if you want it to be explained in a lot better than
clearer,
what we can, I suppose, check out their stuff, like, because
Aubrey and Whitney they're kind of like our gods.
Goals. Like,
they're an amazing couple, and their Aubrey's podcast. Does Whitney have a podcast?
I'm not sure. I think she's on a lot of them.
She's on a lot of his. Yeah. Anyway, his podcast, the Aubrey Marcus podcast, is phenomenal. Really worth a listen. I listen to like 4 hours of it a day.
Yeah, definitely. So
I'll link that. I will link that as well.
Yeah.
And
the way that they explained it so perfectly that hit me is because I think, you know, a lot of that jealousy from when I was younger comes from, it's not a malicious place. It's I care so much. I love you so much. Like, I'm a deep, sensitive person, so I put a lot of energy into the things that I love. So if I feel like, you know, I'm not getting that back, you know, it triggers something and whatever. But 100%. I feel like that's an unhealthy possession of a person. You can never own a person. You can never control their thoughts. Like, you know, you have to, I feel like I had to just be a little bit more open to things like just other thoughts that aren't mine, for one.
Totally.
But, you know, because I know that I have a huge burning love for things, like, it helps to understand that.
Or people.
For things and people.
Things and people.
Mainly people. People, yeah. It helps to sort of just think about it, take a step back and not put my human emotions into this scenario, for example, and just sort of think, like, how selfish to think that I could be the ultimate everything for one person, you know, like.
Yeah. And I think it's really important also to, like exactly what you're saying, to realize that you can't satisfy every need, like, as a single person. You can't. Like, we are who we are, and there might be aspects of a relationship that's missing from a certain relationship, and sometimes, you know, and most relationships, it's like, well, okay, my partner doesn't satisfy that part of me, so I just have to forego that.
Yes.
I have to sacrifice that.
Yeah.
But and that's where this beautiful thing of open relationship comes in, where one member of the relationship can say, okay, I recognize that I can't satisfy your need for X. Old mate over there can.
Yeah.
And I want you to have X, so I give you my blessing. I'm okay with this.
That's such a selfless way of looking at your partner's needs and how much you love them, so that they can just, fulfill the needs that you may not be able to. And I think that is honestly so beautiful.
Oh, it's incredible.
And that's not to say that wouldn't be so hard, to know that your partner is with somebody else. But
God, it'd eat you alive. And everyone that I know that's experimented with this has said the same thing, that it does eat you alive, and that you should never go into an open relationship if you aren't ready and willing to learn and explore and grow and really feel, to feel for sure.
Including the amount of pain and things that would come along with that.
A lot of the time, like the biggest growth comes from, the biggest
ultimately,
pain.
That's what I think, And the couples that can go through that and then come home to each other at the end of, say a weekend away with their other lover or something, and come back and know that and just be happy that their partner's just been ultimately satisfied, and then they come back to you like, oh, it just sounds so beautiful. But like, honestly, kudos to the people that can work through all of that pain and stuff to get to that beautiful place, because that just is a lot of work, and I have to acknowledge that, because it would not be easy. It wouldn't be.
It wouldn't be easy. No way. No way. So you haven't experienced an open relationship to this degree? To this day?
No.
No. Yeah. No. So, I mean, neither have I. Like, I have a couple of times felt as though I was approaching one, and it's been like a conversation, and then it just sort of never happened. But I think that's more so because I recognized shortly after that I was coming from a place of, but I actually just still want to be able to fuck anyone.
Totally.
It's undeniable. It's just the way I was feeling at the time. Like,
there's no judgment based around that either, because it's just...
and the fact that it didn't work out was a blessing. And it wasn't supposed to be, because I wasn't coming to it from an authentic place. And
you learn from each experience, I think, a bit more about yourself as well, and how you can love. And that's why I think...
How you can love.
Yes.
That's another podcast in itself.
Totally. Yeah, honestly, because this is still so new to me, and that's why I find it so fascinating, because it's... Oh my gosh, I feel like it's just a huge weight lifted off your shoulders around this, when it comes to sex, and so many topics just, I personally felt so uncomfortable about. I would just kind of be like, oh, okay, let's, change the subject. And it's helping me.
This is really pushing my buttons.
Next, it's see, it makes you uncomfortable. Well, me anyway, I was... didn't really come from a sexually expressive family. It was...
Yeah. So that's
really
a big thing for me as well. We just didn't. It wasn't a topic that was spoken about at all.
That goes for a lot of households. They kind of just leave it up to sex ed at school.
They do, or even just trial and error, and that's okay. But
because it's so uncomfortable to talk about, and it shouldn't freaking be like that.
It shouldn't. No, it's just another part of life. There is really no reason this should be a delicate topic like it is.
It's a huge part of life, and everybody does it.
Yeah, and I think one of the major problems with this, and something that I've come across quite often on my travels, is that the lack of those conversations from a young age tend to result in people learning what they know about sex through porn.
Beautiful. Yes. Yes, you're totally right.
Which isn't ideal and tends to plant a lot of unrealistic expectations in your mind. Care to share?
Do care to share. That's a big topic, I think, because I've personally experienced that, where let's say porn addiction has actually come in between a partner and I. So people can be addicted to porn, and a lot of women are like, no, my partner's cheating if they watch porn and stuff like that, which I think is another topic.
Weird, yeah.
It's ridiculous. But when it becomes, there's so much lack of intimacy where they'd rather go do that, and like, you're asleep, and they'd rather wait for you to fall asleep to do that. That's a problem, my dude. Like, you can't deny that.
And there's like, in that, there's something that's saying that the real thing isn't living up to what I can see on my screen.
Mm-hmm. And that's desire. Pure desire.
Yeah. Because what is on their screen is whatever they want.
Exactly.
Like, you can find anything that you want.
It's scary.
It's full on. Yeah.
And it distorts, especially from a young age, because when you and I were kids, like, you had the dial-up internet, I was like, like, that, and it took, exactly.
I can't even remember. Yeah.
You know what we mean. And it was so loud and ridiculous, and, it was so slow. There's no way, like...
I remember trying to play games, anyway.
Yeah, like, it was just so slow, like... Yeah. And the internet today, accessible from before you were born, you've got the internet, like...
There's kids that are like, 18 now that had the internet, like, since they were born.
Exactly.
That's crazy. Anyway.
that to me is scary because to the generation up, when I tell them that I had an email address when I was 9, they freak out. They're like, what the hell? That's so messed up. It's not like I did anything with it. Like, what's a 9-year-old going to do with an email address and really slow internet access? Totally. Nothing,
They're
dude.
Like, whoa, really?
Whereas kids now have social media accounts when they're like 7 and 8.
No, when they're fucking born. I've seen parents making these accounts for kids
for their
kids. Born.
But kids,
I know kids doing it themselves.
Unsupervised. It's crazy.
But the fact, anyway. Yeah.
And then imagine, the things that they are exposed to before they even really learn about sex. So, when you think about a 9-year-old boy, for example, hormones are kicking in. He's experiencing sexual desires.
Is that early?
9, no, that's sort of around the age where you start rubbing up against furniture,
I think I was still climbing trees and shit. But anyway.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah, let's be safe and go double digits.
Yeah.
10.
Okay, let's go 10. Let's go 10.
Yeah, but I get your vibe.
Say a 10-year-old, doesn't really know what it's about because, it's kind of uncomfortable to talk about with your parents, and they're just like, we'll leave it up to the teachers at school.
He'll figure it out.
And he has that internet access. Type in boobs. What's going to come up?
Totally.
Like, that's
and like,
enters
how
a whole
long do
new
you
world.
think it's going to take before one of his mates at school or something who's, if he's more of a reserved kind of kid, like before one of his mates is like, oh, check this out.
Exactly.
Like, we're blokes.
Exactly.
We're
it's
visual,
inevitable.
as we've said. Yeah, like I know for me, it was a mate of mine that lived down the street.
Yeah.
That exposed me to that, and
yeah.
I just remember being like, holy shit, what is this world that
I just
discovered?
Yeah. Yes, totally. Exactly. And actually, I read an article the other day. This is perfect example. My God, it's ridiculous. So, I don't know why it was an article. It's quite degrading, but I suppose it's to raise awareness to teenagers out there. And it was a story of a girl, I'm pretty sure it was in the UK or something. She was only 16 years old. Was in a group orgy at 16 years old and became... it became so aggressive that she has to wear like a bag now to like relieve her bowels and for the rest of her life because it was so aggressive and she was 16 years old, was not prepared for that. Like so the person that she consented to do this with though, just kind of was following exactly what he'd seen.
Yeah.
For all his life.
Yeah.
And didn't realise that those women are old. They've done this thing. They ease on into it.
No.
Older. Sorry, older than 16, I hope.
Yeah.
And have eased on into that.
Mm.
And they're just going at it exactly like this hardcore stuff with teenage girls. And they're getting actually injured. But these boys don't know any better. And to be honest, I think a lot of them can't actually perform unless it's aggressive because their tolerance has gone up.
That's what they've come to expect as normal. Yeah,
and that's just a generalization. But when you read articles like that, you're just like, whoa,
wow. Yeah.
That poor girl.
I experienced nothing like that.
Nothing like that.
But I experienced just the crazy degree that sexuality has taken over youth these days, just in the fact that I'll be at the shopping centre or like down at the beach and I'll like see a chick and I'll be like, damn, she's fine, and then like I'll get a bit closer and I'll be like, damn, she's like fucking 14. Like it's crazy the way they're dressing,
the
way
sexualization of children.
they're walking, even like just the way that they express themselves from such a young age now is like, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is actually really freaking me out.
Exactly. Classic example, the Cash Me Outside chick. Everybody was like, oh my god, she's so gorgeous. She's got massive boobs. The chick from Dr. Phil, she was like 14 years old and became famous.
Don't actually know who that is.
Well, that's a good thing. You are 1% of people who don't know her, so that's actually fucking amazing.
I don't know.
But anyway, everyone was like blowing up, going, oh my god, she's so gorgeous, and and then comments after comments online, people were going, dude, she's 14. She's 14 years old. That's creepy. And the dudes, you'd click on their profiles and they're old dudes, don't realise this girl's actually 14. She looked like at least 19, 21, maybe.
That's crazy.
How? It's like, what's being put in our food? The girls are developing so crazy.
So crazy, hey.
That's another topic,
and
honestly.
that is another topic. And, like, I think that has a lot to do with consciousnness. Like, I'm a huge believer in consciousness and in the power of the mind, law of attraction, etc., etc. And I really just do think that that's a case of, large-scale sexual consciousness and a change in the mindset and the way that these girls are perceiving themselves and what's being put up in front of them all day long with social media, etc., etc. And I think that they're just creating that for themselves and that is actually developing their bodies physically earlier because their brain is being exposed to these thoughts and these concepts from a much younger age. It's
like evolution, almost.
Yeah, totally. Because I think, that is governed a lot by, what's going on up here in our head.
100%. 100%. There's been so many social science studies on that proves that we spoke about this at work with these statistics. Super, super terrifying when you really think about it, how dramatically the statistics of teen depression and suicide has gone up just within the last 10 years.
Very sad.
That on a scale of how long social media has been around, especially in teen girls, the oh my goodness, it's just risen, it's shot through the roof and it's alarming. And you constantly hear about it. And
we've gotten to an age now that depression and anxiety is no longer like the one-off kind of thing. It's not a rare thing anymore. It's actually nowadays like
it's so much
we
more
all
common.
have it. We all have it. We all have depression and or anxiety to some degree. It's just the norm now.
Exactly.
And it's just really sad.
It is.
It's a sad thing that we're so detached from who we are just as human beings. Here having this incredible physical experience for such a short time.
Exactly.
Like realistically, what is such a short time? And we're just so focused on the external, that we have forgotten to stay in touch with what it really means to be,
alive.
A human being full of life and love and wonder and awe. And, we are all a part of the same creative energy and soul.
And that's such a beautiful thing to discover. And these kids that don't get a chance to discover that because they've been consumed by so much external crap.
Yeah.
It's devastating, really.
It's sad. It's sad.
There's so much beauty in this world. It's like we need to be pumping stuff like that.
There is. And like as we were saying the other day at work as well, it's cool because at the moment, like even though everything's looking real gnarly and dark and like it's a rough time, there's also so much light popping through. There's 100%. So many more young people that are interested in spirituality and enlightenment.
More
and, like,
so than ever before.
Opening their mind. Like,
it's beautiful.
Totally.
That's a beautiful part of the internet.
100%. That's one of the massively beneficial things when it comes to the internet.
Yeah.
But the great thing about that, and like maybe my thought process and the reason I brought that up was that, maybe it is just the case of darker before the dawn, the darkest before the dawn, like one of those things where we're just going to have to really get to that point where it's, we're on rock bottom
Yeah.
before we sort of go, oh, geez, we've been kidding ourselves the whole time. You know, like the
Yeah.
beauty isn't in, you know, the perfectly photoshopped photos and the
Exactly.
mad cars and the big houses. But the beauty is in like every single moment that we're alive, because yesterday's gone, tomorrow is never a guarantee, and all we have is right now, this very moment.
Exactly.
And
Exactly right.
like, look outside and just take a look at Mother Nature.
And don't take a photo of it.
Don't take a photo of it.
Challenge you. Dead set.
Yeah.
Just look at it. Just breathe it in.
Yeah. Hashtag
Just
hashtag
breathe
no hashtag.
it in.
just
yeah,
nice.
No, but that's so true. And there's more kids out there nowadays who... And it comes down to parenting ultimately. Like, let's guide our children, be aware of these scary topics, these uncomfortable topics, and guide our children towards not being afraid of it. And it comes out with the internet and stuff. I love seeing people like Will Smith and Aubrey Marcus and stuff. People out there, they're like pumping
just
all of this
spreading
good
these
stuff.
Positive vibes and like good energy. Yeah,
I love that.
It's rad. They're amazing people. And
and kids.
We need to get around these people more so. You know? And you need to find the people that pull the best out of you. You know, that really like inspire that passion and soul and humanity out of us.
Exactly, because I think everybody has that deep down
100%.
curiosity
we're all cut
of
from
like
the same cloth. You
yeah,
know? Like
we all have a curiosity of what am I doing? What is this?
Here?
You know?
Like, yeah. And the answers to that question lie in quite literally this present moment. You know, this
100%.
present moment right here, right now, while you are breathing, living, feeling, being.
Exactly.
You know, in this physical experience.
When you really think about that, it's you can almost feel a change in your brain that you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Realization.
Totally. Your brain's like, oh shit. You know,
we're
here. Like we're here now.
Yeah.
Not yesterday,
not
tomorrow. Yeah, like we're actually here now. Like this is the time that I reside in.
Exactly. And the future doesn't exist.
It doesn't.
It doesn't
only
exist.
time that exists is now. You know, you can't be in the future. And you sure as shit can't be in the past, because if you spend your time in the past, not that you can, but if you do
Up
mentally, it's all it's ever going to do is bring about the same results that you've had in the past. And
exactly.
I mean, for me, that's not something I want.
No. Do not want to repeat the same mistakes
I think
again.
like when people ask that $1 million question of what is the purpose of life, you know, in my opinion, the purpose of life is evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Quite simply, if someone were to say, what is the purpose of life in one word, I would say evolution, because I would say that our purpose here is to evolve, both spiritually and physically, mentally, on a whole level, because at the end of the day, when all is said and done and this planet returns to space dust or whatever it returns back into, you know, it'll just be the finalization of us as a thing, and like it'll have been like an evolutionary course from cellular critters to, you know, to apes, to human beings, and I believe in the future sort of beings with much more spiritual and you know, energetic power and presence, rather than so much of a physically dominated identity.
100%.
But that is obviously just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
thought.
At the end of all of it, it's like, what do you make of it? You know, and life is what you make it. So
life is choice. You know, whether you choose to believe this or that.
That's
up to you.
That's it. And something you said before, I would like to just say, it's my cliche go-to saying, is like, you have to experience the bad to be able to experience the good. And
to appreciate the good, yeah.
My cliche saying is the arrow has to be pulled back before it can be shot forward. So if you feel like you're hitting like rock bottom or something, that can only go up from there.
Totally.
And why focus on the bad shit?
100%. I mean, that is evident within my own life within the last 3 months. Like, I was in a shitty place over Christmas. I was in a shitty place. Like, I was just not in a good area in my life. Like, and from that feeling of sort of hitting that bottom, came this blog, website, this podcast we're doing now, all these YouTube videos that I'm putting up,
That's
like this
so cool.
online business that I'm pumping all my time and energy into, and this like passion project, and it opened something up inside of me that was like, dude, you are playing it small.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you are playing it small, and you are choosing not to confront your fears and not to step up and be the person that you can be for no reason other than because you are afraid of failure.
Yeah.
And that's like
Wow.
the fucking most crazy thing in the world when you stop and think about it. You're like, the fuck? Like, I mean, like if
something you said
failure
to
is
me
going to
the
hold me
other
back
day.
from having everything I've ever wanted in my life, like that's it?
And why does failure exist? Because you put limits on yourself.
And
like
because
that's the fear of
believe in
failure
it.
anyway.
Yeah, like failure is feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Failure is feedback saying you didn't get it right this time, try again.
Mm-hmm.
Learn your lesson, try again.
And it'll keep, the same sort of lessons will keep returning to you in
Until
different
you learn
scenarios.
them. Yeah,
until you learn and move on.
100%.
And, you know, if you're one of those people that kind of goes, why is this happening to me? Why does this always happen to me? Ooh, there might be something a little bit deeper that we shall explore.
Absolutely, and that's like the victim mindset and everything.
Yeah.
However, we have gone full circle.
I was just
we got like way off topic. And it doesn't matter because this is all really important, cool stuff.
It is really cool.
But I want to dive back now real quick before we wrap this up. And I wanted to actually, first of all, let's have a little quick conversation about dating apps.
Okay, cool.
Like, what's your take on that?
Well, dating apps. Huh, okay. Well, actually...
How many are you on?
How many are on? Well, I was like, no, I'm kidding. No,
only 3, ladies and
gentlemen. I'm not kidding. No, I actually met my current boyfriend on a dating app.
Which one?
Tinder.
Cheeky plug for you, Tinder.
Yeah, there you go, mate. Thanks.
Not
Who
that
would
they
have
need
thought?
it.
Exactly, but who would have thought, right? Like, and
well, actually, I would have thought. You know, like it's that time now. It's just like dating apps aren't really even a controversial topic anymore. They just kind of are. And I know a lot of successful relationships that have come out of dating apps.
Totally.
A lot. I mean, like honestly, the way we live our lives these days, we are all so busy. We all do so much. Well, I think we all seem to do so much. Like it's a fast-paced life that we live, and we don't really. For those of us that don't go out to bars and hang around and chit chat and drink piss and waste time,
I'm tired from work. I just want to like sleep.
Yeah, like you know,
don't have time to meet people.
When and how are you going to meet people? Otherwise?
Exactly.
So look, they have a place. I totally agree that they have a place and they've worked for you.
Yeah.
And you know, I've met people through them in the past. None of them have stuck, but I certainly have. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great way to meet people these days.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean it's like I have issues with it. I've written a blog on it. If you guys haven't read it, it's quite funny. But if I don't say so myself. But I do have a little bit of a charge against it in the sense that it is just feeding and fueling that instant gratification world that we live in. Of I want someone so I can just go and swipe and just like flick through, window shop people.
It's that spontaneous urge, and it can become very shallow.
It is.
I mean,
isn't it? It's
evidently it is. Ultimately, it is.
But
I mean,
at the same time, like, I mean, if you were in a bar or a pub or whatever, and you saw a chick, like, if you're not sexually attracted to her, you're not going to go up and talk to her, and
100%.
vice versa, you know, like, so that's just human. Like, we are totally visual beings in that sense, as much as we were saying maybe men are more so, like, chicks are as well. Yeah. Like, it's natural.
And I think especially for a lot of women, I constantly hear women say, oh, but you know, he's not very attractive, but he's so funny, and I love that, and that comes down to more like the emotional kind of side of things that we were talking about earlier. But if you're gonna not go on social dating apps purely because you're not sure if you should swipe left or right on someone because they could be funny, it's like that's a whole other issue. Like,
that's crazy.
And for me, it comes down to, well, if that was the case, then they weren't meant when we weren't meant to be together. I'd totally leave everything open
or
to
at
what's
least
meant to be.
You weren't meant to at this time.
Particular time,
You don't know. Yeah.
I feel like everyone who comes in and out of your life happens when it's meant to and for a reason.
Absolutely.
So I'm just like,
people come into your life to give you a dose of whatever it is that you need at that time.
Exactly.
It might not be what you think you need, but it is what the universe decides that you need.
Boy, oh boy, is
Word.
that correct?
Word.
Yes, 100%. And a lot of the time you'll find when people sort of give up on trying to find somebody, that's when someone comes in. Because it's like you've stopped looking for... You stop picking it apart. And sometimes you don't realise that that's actually what you're doing, especially on dating apps. You're picking people apart by their looks. And let's face it, there's people that are rude out there that are doing it purely ego-based. So they're going to be mean to you. But
yeah.
That's anywhere you go.
100%.
So it's what you make it.
It is.
And
folks, ladies and gentlemen, it is what you make it. Done.
That's it. Goodbye.
Yeah, look. And that is very much true. But anyway, that's also a topic for another day. Okay, so we've established dating apps in today's day and age. Okay, but maybe just exercise a bit of humanness when you use it. I love that saying, treat others as you would have them treat you.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think it's just important that you give people a fair go. I mean, if you're not attracted to the person, don't swipe them. Just don't.
Don't tell them
and
that.
Then, yeah, and then, so I guess I'm just saying don't lead people on. If you get to that point where you are chatting and maybe he's not witty or funny enough or that Prince Charming that you're expecting at this stage, and this is just from a male perspective, maybe just remember that this dude is trying to make a human connection with you through a device, and that 80% of what we say as human beings isn't what comes out our mouth. Because
it's been edited.
And 95% of what we say isn't what we type on a keyboard. You know what I mean? So
totally. I don't say LOL in real life or
totally. But it's very hard to convey what you actually think or feel through a keyboard.
Exactly.
And sometimes you need that human being sitting across from you to spark something that will then lead to a great conversation, great communication, or a greater, more in-depth connection that you just wouldn't be able to create via a messaging app. I know for me personally, and I say this because I have a lot of trouble with it. I really struggle to come up with the right thing to say, whatever that is, on an app. I just need that eye connection. That body language,
to engage,
the tone, to engage and to pick up on those signals and then work with that. It's delicate foreplay in a sense. It's
there's a way, there's a certain thing about that human interaction that makes I feel like just the energy is totally different.
Totally.
Because you can pick up what the other's putting down a little bit better. There's that wall between. It's almost literally talking through a wall. You can't see the other person's face or how they take something.
It's like talking through a wall that also removes the tone of your voice.
Exactly.
It's tone. Like talking through one of those those FBI voice changer machine things that makes your voice sound like this.
So exactly. You can't tell. Are you really angry?
You're not actually able to pick up almost anything about that human being.
Exactly. And because my boyfriend and I actually are, in the doing the long distance thing, and we've had little things like that where we'll be like, oh sorry, read that back and gone, oh sorry, that was really blunt and I didn't mean for it to be like that. Just clearing that up.
Also just making assumptions, we make so many assumptions, I have it written on my wall, I don't make assumptions. It's toxic. I can't even begin to explain how many times in my life I will assume that something is a certain way and then find out later that I was completely wrong. Like, we fuck up. We mess up. We assume things that just aren't the case.
And have expectations.
And it's very easy. Exactly. It is very easy to do that.
And it's very easy to get hurt
through a text and stuff. Yeah, and to get hurt, because also what I have on my wall, I don't take anything personally, because we all make assumptions and we all take things personally.
That's such a great virtue to live by.
Just a quick plug here. That is actually part of the 4 agreements. I am impeccable with my word. I don't make assumptions. I don't take anything personally, and I always do my best. By Miguel Ruiz. Someone.
Something. Sorry, dude.
I can't remember his full name. But he's an amazing human being, and that is a phenomenal book, and I really couldn't recommend you guys check it out anymore. But anyway.
Yeah, I like
okay,
that.
cool.
And the best thing that I was told as a child, I honestly don't remember where I heard it from, but I heard, don't ever assume anything because it makes an ass out of you and me. And I was like, boy, that's amazing.
So good.
That's so good.
I seriously feel like I haven't heard that before. That's
really?
phenomenal. I love that.
So
I need to write that down before you go.
Yeah. And it goes a lot with assumptions and expectations, because it's so easy to get hurt if you have an expectation on something. What's the point in expecting something to be something? That's setting yourself up for failure.
100%.
Just be open to things, don't assume, and don't take shit personally.
We don't have a crystal ball, you know, like we just don't. We can't tell what people are thinking at any given time of day, and it's one of the things that makes human communication such an interesting dynamic.
It is, isn't it? It's tricky to go about online communication, especially dating apps and stuff. Yeah. It's hard to get to know a person that way. So what's a person to do except to go, hey, let's just meet up and go for a coffee?
Yeah, 100%. Or in your case, buy a plane ticket.
Yeah.
Alright, we're gonna start to wrap this up because we're getting pretty close to an hour now. But while we're here, okay, I have a question for you. Okay. What is the best pickup line you've ever been hit with?
Ooh. I don't know, question. Honestly. Can't think of one off the top of my head. Or best pickup move, or anything that stands out that dude has done to try and get either your I don't think any of them have been good. Oh, actually, okay.
Okay, here we go.
Oh my god. So, this one was actually really sweet. It wasn't like a pickup line or a move or anything. It was just a sweet gesture that I was thrown away by. I was like, that's so sweet. Okay, so I was...
Are you listening, Jen?
Men, please listen. Do take note, because this, honestly, I'll never forget this. I went, and it was actually after our Christmas party last year at work. Oh, yeah. Just was filling up my car at 7-Eleven, filling up the petrol. And, when you go to 7-Eleven, they're like, do you want a Krispy Kreme for $2? And I'm always like, stop asking me, because of course I want it, but I don't need it, woman. So I'm like, no. And I always have to say, yes, I want it, but I'm not going to. And then, so I left, and I was cleaning the windscreen of my van.
Hashtag not donut time.
Hashtag not donut time, but hashtag want donut time. Yeah. Constant battle for me, my god. But anyway, I was cleaning my windscreen, and out of nowhere, just some random, dude behind me who was obviously had heard me say to the woman, yes, I want it, but I'm not gonna, had bought it for me, bought me one and brought it out and just gave it to me and was like, I'm having a bad day, heard you wanted a donut, here you go. And he's like, I just wanted to make someone else's day better. And it wasn't even a romantic, I don't think, because it's not like he wrote his number on it or anything, but I just thought, that's so sweet. If there's any way to get...
Thank you, but fuck you.
Thank you. Oh my god. It was so nice, and it made my day. It gave me, it just made me feel so special, rather than, getting a DM on Insta going,
here's a photo of my dick.
Yeah, or that, yeah. It's way better than that, but, people will, it's way better. The human interaction like that, if you think someone's cute or something. Just a kind
thought, just a random act of kindness.
Yeah, and I think a randant act of kindness, exactly. And I think women much more appreciate being felt appreciated rather than what they look like.
Yeah.
Like, we do put a lot of effort into what we look like.
That they
want to
feel heard. Women want to feel heard. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that guy heard me say I wanted a donut, and I was like, "You're a freaking legend, my
You're
dude,"
an
because
dude, yeah.
I did freaking want it.
You
I
listened.
did, and he got it for me. I love that because
that's dope.
Yeah,
that's dope.
That was beautiful. What's your best pickup line from what have you
girl?
used? That's the best.
Actually, no. Okay, no, I've got one for you. The best pickup line that was used on me wasn't actually a line; it was a look.
Okay.
So I remember being, I don't know if it was beautiful,
I don't know.
but I do remember
Not
being
there
at a New Year's Day, I think it was, party back at, I think it was called the Prince Hotel in St Kilda back in Melbourne, where I used to live, and I was at the top of this rooftop, and it was like the end of the party. Maybe it was a New Year's night party. I feel like it was late at night. Yeah, we'll go with that. I'm pretty sure. And I'm like dancing there. I'm drunk off my fucking tits, and I have had just no luck today. Like I've just been striking out all night. And I look over at this bird, and she's like, I can tell she's much older than me, but for those who know me, that's kind of a thing of mine. But anyway, she just gave me this look, and I was just like, that means come over here, young man, and fucking take charge of this. And that is like all it said, and I was just like, okay, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I love that. It's all comes down to a look.
Yeah, it does. Like, so it was just that simple. So that's probably the most effective and best pickup line that I have experienced.
I love that.
But
and actually, that just sparked a memory of mine from the movie Ted.
I promise we'll finish up soon.
We will. From the movie Ted. And she's like, they're talking about fuck me eyes.
Oh,
and she's like, do I have fuck me eyes? And she's got like, the actress has big blue eyes. And he's like, no, you have give me the ring, my precious eyes. I lost it. That was so awesome. Funny. But it made me think. I'd never heard the word fuck me eyes before.
Yeah. Like, it's such a thing.
It's totally a thing.
Such a thing.
It's like as I was saying before, like for women, it's like a look. It's like, oh my god, he gave me fuck me eyes. Like,
yeah. What's that movie where he's like, where someone, he's like, so that chick just, I fucked the shit out of me. Oh, it's the Wedding Crashers. The Wedding Crashers. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, but that girl in the hat over there just, I fucked the shit out of me.
And everyone's like,
it's just like, shut up, you're in a fucking wedding rehearsal.
That's so good, actually.
Whatever it's called.
Oh, reception. Or something, yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Okay. So I guess, having said that then, would you say that the best approach for a bloke when it comes to trying to connect with you would be to just be authentic and to listen?
Just be authentic, 100%. And I think everybody knows women love to be listened to. So it doesn't mean put yourself back and totally just be all about her. Just be authentic. Just feel the situation. Don't try and
feel the situation and react to it in a way that is authentic to your true self.
Yeah, don't. And that's
pretending's never going to get you anywhere in these scenarios.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless you're just trying to root and boot, but then if that's the case, I'm not going to give you any advice because I'm probably no better than you at that.
But that for me, that comes down to each individual person. Some people's egos are higher than others, and some people just genuinely don't care about what the other person has to say. So for the people that genuinely are like trying to find someone in this big world that we live in, and it seems like the only way is on social media. If that's the way, don't assume anything. Don't expect anything. Just go with it, and whatever's meant to be, I think, is gonna just happen.
Yeah, just be.
Yeah.
Just be human. You are a human being.
Being. And
we did it.
Yeah, we did this.
Are we good? Are we good? We've like sort of done.
Covered in sweat.
We could talk.
That's gross.
It is like it is hot as shit. Like. Yeah, sorry people if we are disgusting, sweaty pigs.
Wow,
but...
yeah, that's embarrassing actually. I didn't know it was that bad.
It's like Queensland, so give us some credit here.
That's bad. Anyway.
No, it's whatever. We're human. We're human beings. We excrete salty water.
Why is sweat gross?
It's not. It's not.
It's not.
I don't use a sweat towel. Or should I have not said? Did I say that out loud?
Sweat towel. Oh, how do you?
Oh, what? Oh my god, that's disgusting.
going.
All right, no, we're
I'm
calling
going.
it. We're calling it. Okay, so
that's
before
it.
we go, resources for these lovely people. I know you and I are both massive advocates of Aubrey Marcus and Whitney Miller, so check them out, guys. They are
And their socials as
phenomenal
well.
human beings. Their socials, I think it's just Aubrey Marcus.
Yep.
He is, and Whitney Miller, is it?
And
No,
Wit in Love.
in Love. I think it's Wit, WHIT underscore N.
Nah, I think it's just
no
one
underscore.
word. We'll put it in
Wit
the
and Love.
description.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
My mother's book, if you're interested, it's called Wanted Greener Grass. I'll link that in the description as well. And the book that Phoebe is listening to at the moment, and I am intending on hearing it very soon, is called Sex at Dawn. Meant to be amazing. I can't speak from experience, but I've heard a lot of good things, so maybe check that out as well.
Huge recommendation.
And of course, where do people find you?
Instagram.
Instagram is the name of the game.
That's it.
In these parts.
That's it. On the Big Bad Gold Coast, it is. You know it.
100.
So, just Phebe Daniels.
Phebe Daniels. Want to spell it for the peoples?
PHEBE Daniels _. That's me. There you go.
Done and done.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Awesome. We did it.
Boom.
Love it.
Podcast completo. Thanks for tuning in, peeps. It's been good to chat. Please leave any feedback down in the comments below and get amongst it.
Cool beans.
All right. That was fun. See ya.